Hey everybody, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to talk about changing gears, quick change rear, and how we change gears, the proper way to do it, what to look for while you're doing it to catch, maybe any potential problems, failures, and just a procedure of pulling the cover, swapping the gears out, torquing the cover back on, and yeah, here we go. Hi, I'm Billy Dietrich, sprint car mechanic and driver. I've been around racing my whole life and it's pretty much all I know. We created this channel to share the good and the bad and everything in between. Our crew might not be the most experienced or professional, but we get it done and we have a good time doing it. We'll show you what it's really like racing weekly at some of the best tracks in central Pennsylvania. I'm also going to share some sprint car tutorials, mechanics, and parts, and whatever else I feel like. So like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. And enjoy the ride. Yeah, boy! We got our winner's rear here. We got our aluminum drain pan down here. So I know the rear end's not in the car, but with the rear end in the car, it's kind of dark. It makes it hard for the video. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to do it right here on the workbench. So here we go. We'll bust into this rear. You need a 9/16 wrench, or you could use an impact if you wanted. We'll get to that in a minute here. The pros and cons of using the impact. If you're doing this at the track, obviously this is going to be hot, so you're going to need some gloves, and the oil is going to really rush out. So I already had this cover off. This rear end's here for a rebuild for a customer. We do lots of rear end rebuilds here, so I already had the cover off, drained the oil out. So shouldn't be much here. We're going to pop the cover off. Maybe. Hold on. I need to hammer tap it off. So I'm going to sometimes you just gotta tap them a little bit. They get drawn in there pretty tight. Whoa, careful, don't pop off on you. So we're gonna remove the cover. First thing I'm always gonna look at, I'm gonna look at these bearings right here, these rear cover bearings. I'm gonna give them a visual first, and I'm gonna feel them, see how they feel. Feels nice and smooth. That's how they should feel. But they don't always feel like that. And I'll show you an example right now of what happens when the bearing doesn't feel like that. Two examples. This is the same bearing we just looked at. As you can see, it failed. All the balls are out, the cage is out, and all that metal was inside the rear. This was in a rear guy brought here for me. He didn't even know it was broke. If you race the same track every week, you don't need to change gears. Well, it may be true, but you need to at least pull the cover off and inspect things, because this guy ran this for probably, he doesn't even know how long. Could have been months. And all that metal got in the oil and actually chewed the axle up where the seal rides. So first thing, that is one that's really bad. And here's one that's kind of tricky. You look at them first, it looks all right. It feels all right. Doesn't feel too bad, but it's got a little bit of a rough spot. Look right here. You can see this cage is coming apart. See how it is down here? Up here, it's failing. There's actually, this ball is already chewed up. Half of it's missing or better. So very important. Pull the cover off. First thing you need to look at is these bearings, because it is not uncommon for them to go bad. No rhyme or reason. Doesn't matter what oil you run or how long they're on there, they do go bad. First thing you gotta do, inspect your bearings. We just did that. We're gonna move on to removing the gears is next. So if you look in here, we'll see that the big gears on the top, little gears on the bottom, which is the right way. I'll pull the gears out. If we were at the track doing this at the track, we'd sit them right on our gear drain pail like this. That's what that's made for, to catch the gears. You can sit your cover there, sit your cover nuts, and makes it real handy because you can keep it out of the dirt. And it's right there to grab when you're working on it. So now that we got the gears removed, the next thing we're going to check is the backlash on the pinion. So we bring the camera over here. The top shaft here is the pinion. So this shaft will all be in here, and it's what actually drives the axle with the ring gear. So I'm going to grab this shaft. I'm going to try and move it. So if you hear that noise, that's what we call backlash. So the backlash is the space between the ring gear on the axle and this pinion. And there's two reasons why that's important. Number one, if you don't have enough backlash, if it doesn't, you don't hear that sound at all, you can't hear it, that means you don't have any backlash. The pinion's gonna get hot, and eventually it's gonna fail. Now, if you run a heavy oil and it's cold, it might be hard to hear that. Second reason for that is if you check this weekly and you get a feel for what it feels like every week, you'll know if you reach up there 1 week and all of a sudden you got 3 times the amount of backlash and there's something wrong. As simple as a tooth on the pinion chipping off or flaking off, and then you got bigger problems. You got to pull the rear end out. All right, so we got the gears out, and when it comes to checking the gears, the small gear is typically the culprit when the gears fail. And I got a gear here to show you an example of what you need to look for. We call this either pitting or flaking. Inside that white square, there's actually metal is missing off of the tooth. So if you see here where this tooth is smooth, this tooth has a divot. So when you're inspecting your gears, it's crucial that you check this every time you change gears. And sometimes we'll actually check it. When I'm doing the gears, I'll check it even when I'm putting the new gears in case somebody else pulled the gears out and they didn't look at it. I'll inspect them both ways. When I pull the gears out, I clean them up in the parts washer, and then when I'm putting them in, always inspect them. Now, a gear like this, it'll probably run a little bit with the metal flaking off, but ultimately it's going to fail. And just like the rear cover bearing, that metal has got to go somewhere. It's going to go into oil, and then once it gets into oil, it's just going to cause more damage. So look your gear over, make sure they're not flaking. If they are flaking, the best thing to do is just pitch them out and buy a new set of gears, replace them, because that's not going to get any better. So the next thing when it comes to looking for problems is this inspection plug here. What's inside here is the pinion, access to this pinion, the pinion we just talked about, feeling with your hand. If you look in here, you can see the teeth on the pinion. It's kind of hard to see because it's dark in there, and of course when the rear end's in the car going in the road. So basically what you want to do is you want to rotate the axle. What you're looking for in here is the same type of pitting we just showed you on that quick change gear will actually happen on these teeth of the pinion. So when you're gonna just slowly move the rear, and you can look at the shiny part of the tooth, and you're gonna look for that same imperfection on each tooth. And same as a quick change gear, if you see that imperfection on there, then you're gonna have to, your rear end needs a ring and pinion. So you just gotta keep looking for that. As the season goes on, because it will eventually wear out and come to that point where you're gonna need to replace a ring and pinion. Well, here's what I was trying to tell everybody, and I got a good example right here. Look at that inspection plug, and if you see sharp edges like that, there's a problem. Yeah, so that's what you're looking for. There's obviously been a problem for a long time here, but yeah, inspection plug 101. So here's our pinion that's in bad shape. There's actually a whole chunk of it missing there, and it's actually wore really, really bad. And this thing is, I can't believe it didn't fail to this point. If it was in a higher horsepower application, I'm sure it would have failed. But there's a lot of metal down here in the oil. Maybe back here, and this whole cavity is full of metal. So if you're changing your gears and you ever see metal like this, looks like never sees, but it's actually not. That's metal from the pinion or anything else. So that's what you're looking for when you're doing your rear end maintenance. Changing gears. That's bad. Real bad. All right, so when it comes to checking these things out, especially the teeth on the pinion, it's something we do through the week. When we're at the track, changing gears quickly, we don't have time to look in there with a flashlight and look at the teeth. But if you're changing gears and you end up with an abundant amount of metal in the oil, then at that point in time, you should definitely, even if you're at the track, look in that inspection plug, look at the teeth quick, look at your gear like we talked about. And if you still can't find something wrong there, it could be something deeper in the rear. It could be a bearing failure in front up here somewhere. There's multiple bearings in there. It could go bad. So check that through the week. You can't always do it at the track because you don't have time. Because quick change gears, you're in a hurry. All right, so we've already got everything out. We've checked everything. Now we're going to go back together with it. Got our quick change gears here. Kind of a rule of thumb we always go with is the numbers on the gear. Numbers out. So when you put the gears in, you can read the numbers. You know what set they are. And big gear always on top. So my dad would say, just think about Dolly Parton. And then the big on top. So we're going to install the gears back in here. Big gear on top, little gear on the bottom. Boom, there you go, they're in. One more thing to think about is if you have the car in gear, it's going to be hard to get the gears in and out. So really need to do this with the car out of gear because it doesn't want to move to line the teeth up. Next, we got our rear cover. We've already checked the bearings, they're all good. We're going to put it on here. There is no direction for this. It can go on either way. There's no top or bottom. We're going to slide it on there. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, this particular cover has an O-ring right here. So you always want to inspect that O-ring. Or if you have a gasket on here, you want to inspect the gasket. The new winner's rears with this 6-bolt cover has an O-ring. O-ring looks good. I'm going to slide that thing back on there. I'm going to insert or install. We're not inserting anything, we're installing. Install our nuts. There's 6 of them. Now, the thing with the nuts, and this happens a lot, people will take an impact and they'll just run these suckers on there. And they'll get tight and they won't fall off. That's not going to be a problem. These nuts, they're aluminum. They're aluminum nuts with a little steel washer on the end here. So if you run these nuts in and make them, tight with an impact wrench, or tight with a wrench, you're going to smash these nuts down and they're going to be junk in no time at all. And then it's going to be hard to get them on and off because they're going to be all mushroomed over and you're going to be replacing the nuts. So here again, what we do here is we always run a torque wrench on these nuts. And I'll show you that here in a second. Now we're going to torque the nuts on here. So this is going to sound like much, but 12 foot-pounds, which isn't much at all. Got our gear wrench, torque wrench here. Digital torque wrench, like I said, 12. That ain't much. But that's all you need. 12 foot-pounds. Torque these bad boys down. They won't come off there. And it won't kill your nuts on the cover. So 12 foot-pounds, all you need. Rear cover's torqued, good to go. So the last step is putting the oil back in the rear. I know some teams will just put new oil in every time, fresh oil. We don't. We always reuse the oil. We run a Bulldog blood oil in our winner's rear ends. We sell this oil here at the shop, Racers New Used Parts Warehouse. So if we had the rear end in the car, it might look silly, but we use a tall funnel like this. We put it in here and we use a bungee cord. It just hangs there. And we'll just dump the same oil that came out of the rear right back in the rear. Periodically, we'll just add a splash of new oil because you always lose a little bit of oil when you're changing gears. And then once that's on there, we'll install an inspection plug. And one thing with this inspection plug is you don't have to make it tight. All you have to do is run it in against until it stops turning. You'll feel it go against the O-ring, boom, stop. If you make that sucker tight, when this rear gets hot, this gets really tight. And then I see them already. When they came in, these were completely rounded off, and you couldn't get them off there. Channel locks on there. I got a torque sheet here. We use this all the time. It's a sheet that we've used over the years. We've kind of accumulated the torque specs for many, many years. And Danny actually finally put them all on paper and printed them out, and we give them away here at the shop. But I actually carry one of these in the trailer for my crew guys, and also keep one in the shop on top of my toolbox for when we're working on the car. I pretty much have most of this stuff memorized just from doing it every day. But you know, your average guy that's just a weekend warrior, hey, you might need a little refresher, and maybe he needs to look at this sheet. So all the torque specs are on here. We basically go from the motor plate forward up top here, and then we go from the motor plate back, drive line, and rear end, which also includes the brakes. And we go to the motor side of things. Your spark plugs, your nozzles, your headers, your rockers, your rocker shafts. And then we got our hand check stuff that you really can't torque, whether it be like the fuel tank, for example. You really can't, we don't torque that because it's going into plastic. So, good idea to just, keep a sheet like this around. Comes in handy all the time.
We'll include it at the end of the video, and you can screenshot it.
There you go. Just in case you're wondering, I'll just show you how we do this. We take the funnel, stick it in there. I got the bungee cord hooked up there. So of course, there's a hole in the funnel. There you go. That's it. All you got to do is just hold on to that so it don't fall out. And yeah, pretty simple. Pretty straightforward. Dump the oil back in the rear. Hope you liked the video, and stay tuned for more. Comment below if you got any comments or questions. Please let us know. Check out our website, RUPW.com, and give us a call if you got any questions. We'll be more than glad to help you.